For best of animal history, money wasn't metal, or paper, or numbers aglow on a screen. It was far drifter, and far added revealing. Because long before gold coins, continued afore banknotes, and continued afore the aboriginal banking systems of Europe or Asia, one of the world's abundant civilizations congenitalled an abridgment about article that seems almost unbelievable today. The berry of a fruit, the absinthian berry that would one day become chocolate. But to the Maya, cacao wasn't candy, it was status, it was ritual, it was power. And eventually it became bill, a absolutely action budgetary arrangement that confused armies, funded cities, and shaped the backroom of an entire region. It wasn't aloof money fabricated from a plant, it was money congenitalled from an abstraction, the abstraction that value didn't have to be metal or stone or anything mined from the earth. It could be grown, cultivated, traded, and consumed. If you think today's banking systems are inventive, the Maya were already accreting the very analog of what money could be. Welcome to the Banking Historian, where money, power, and history collide, and annihilation is anytime as simple as it looks. To understand why cacao could become currency, you aboriginally have to accept who the Maya were, not the Hollywood version, not the simplified schoolbook version, but the actual civilization that flourished beyond southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. The Maya reached their peak during what historians call the Classic period, around 250 to 900 CE. This wasn't a scattering of boscage villages. This was a world of awe-inspiring cities like Tikal, Calakmul, Palenque, Copan, cities with tens of thousands of inhabitants, airying stone temples, sophisticated road networks, authoritative elites, and a level of mathematics and astronomical adeptness that rivaled anything happening in Europe at the time. And what most people don't realize is that these cities weren't aloof ceremonial centers, they were bread-and-butter engines. They bared abiding supplies of maize, squash, beans, salt, obsidian, jade, textiles, dyes, and they managed this without draft animals, wheels designed for transport, or pack caravans. Everything moved through human logistics, porters, canoes, organized merchant groups. You don't build cities on that scale unless you have an economy powerful, stable, and complex enough to sustain them, which means the Maya weren't archaic at all. They were bread-and-butter problem solvers. Their agricultural system, highly efficient terracing, irrigation canals, raised fields, and forest gardens supported dense populations. Their political structure revolved around dynastic kings whose legitimacy depended not only on ritual adeptness, but on their adeptness to manage bargain networks and secure tribute. And at the center of Maya action were lively marketplaces, open plazas where farmers, artisans, traders, and nobles negotiated the prices of everything from food to tools to cloth to ceremonial goods. These markets are key to understanding the Maya economy. They weren't casual fairs or side activities. They were cyclic operations, regulated and monitored by officials who ensured fair dealing. Think of them as the pulse heart of Maya urban life, places where supply and demand met, where value was negotiated, where wealth changed hands. And to make markets work on that scale, you need something every major economy eventually invents: a reliable medium of exchange. But here's the fascinating part. The Maya didn't begin with coins or ingots. They began with value, cultural value, symbolic value, and from that they created trust, the foundation of all money. Cacao, long before it became a treat in European chocolate houses, was a sacred substance in Mesoamerica. It was consumed almost exclusively by elites in the form of a rich, bubbling drink used in ceremonies, political exchanges, and royal rituals. It appears in mythology, linked to gods and creation stories. It appears in peace ceremonies, offerings, political alliances. In other words, cacao had what economists would now call embedded value. Bodies believed in it, they valued it, They considered it something precious. That's the first requirement of money, agreed belief. The second requirement is standardization, and the Maya achieved that too. Archaeologists have found storage vessels containing cacao beans in carefully measured bundles, suggesting they were counted, not traded by weight. Maya codices, murals, and tribute lists mention cacao as a unit of payment, taxes owed in cacao, workers compensated in cacao, fines measured in cacao. Suddenly, it becomes clear, this wasn't symbolic wealth anymore. This was currency. And by the late Classic period, cacao was everywhere in Maya economic life. Marketplace transactions relied on it. Tribute payments flowed through it. Political relationships were negotiated with it. You could buy food, tools, cloth, or luxury goods with cacao. You could pay a laborer's daily wage with cacao. You could even pay for certain legal penalties in cacao. And here's a detail most viewers have never heard. We actually know the prices of things. A rabbit, about 10 cacao beans. A turkey hen, about 100. A cotton shirt, between 20 and 25. A good stone tool, about 3 to 5 beans. These numbers aren't random guesses. They come from colonial accounts that recorded pre-conquest practices and from archaeological evidence showing consistent trade. And they tell us something astonishing. This was a real monetary system, not an arbitrary alternative to barter. Barter is direct exchange, my corn for your cloth, my work for your tools. Cacao was different. It wasn't tied to a single transaction between two people. It became a universal medium of exchange. The Maya weren't improvising. They were operating a functioning, stable currency based on a commodity everyone valued and everyone understood. That's the difference. Barter requires coincidence. Money requires consensus. But the story doesn't stop there, because cacao money created financial dynamics that modern viewers will instantly recognize. Inflation, scarcity, supply chain stress, all of these existed. And in the Maya world, the stability of the money supply depended entirely on a plant that could die, mold, or fail under drought conditions. Imagine a monetary system where a crop failure becomes a liquidity crisis. Imagine a currency that could literally rot. And yet, it worked for centuries. But the reason it worked, and the reason it eventually created new pressures, has everything to do with what came next: the hierarchy of Maya currency, counterfeiting schemes, regional economic competition, and the political battles for control of cacao growing zones. Because the Maya didn't just use cacao, they built a multi-layered financial system around it. The more you look into the Maya money system, the more it starts to resemble the foundations of a modern economy: complex, layered, even vulnerable. Cacao wasn't the only currency in circulation. It was simply the most flexible, the most portable, and the most widely recognized. But it existed within a hierarchy of value that tells us just how financially sophisticated the Maya really were. Because for the Maya, money didn't come in one form. It came in 3 economic tiers. At the bottom were cacao beans, the everyday currency of the marketplace: light, divisible, countable, perfect for small transactions. Then came cotton mantles, woven textiles that held durable value, used for larger purchases and regional trade. And above that were luxury goods like shell beads, obsidian blades, decorated ceramics, quetzal feathers, and other status items that served as long-term stores of wealth, tribute payments, and political capital. This 3-tiered structure allowed transactions at every level, from a farmer buying food to a king negotiating an alliance. It was, in every sense, a functioning economic ecosystem. And like any ecosystem, it faced vulnerabilities. One of the most surprising features of Maya economics is that, yes, they had to deal with counterfeiting. Cacao beans, after all, can be hollowed out, filled with clay or sand, and resealed. And some people did just that. Imagine opening your purse only to realize half your money is fake. Spanish chroniclers described fake beans circulating widely enough that markets had to develop quality controls. It's a reminder that no matter what the century, no matter what the currency, someone is always trying to cheat the system. But counterfeiting wasn't the only financial pressure. The Maya also experienced inflation long before the word existed. Cacao trees didn't grow everywhere. They needed specific climate conditions, warm, humid lowland areas, especially along river valleys in regions like modern Chiapas and Guatemala. If a city-state gained control of a prolific cacao growing zone, its money supply effectively increased. If drought, frost, or disease hit the trees, the money supply contracted. Back harvests were good, prices dropped. Back they were bad, prices soared. In added words, the Maya were active central to a commodity-backed budgetary system, with all the strengths and weaknesses that appear with it. And here's area the story becomes alike added modern, because cacao wasn't aloof a commodity. It was a cardinal resource. City-states fought over cacao-producing regions the way nations today action over oil fields or rare earth minerals. Ascendancy the plantations and you controlled the money. Lose them and your bread-and-butter adherents vanished. This created geopolitical tensions beyond the Maya world. Wars weren't alone fought for celebrity or territory. They were fought to defend the raw material that fabricated a custom business possible. Think about what that means. An age-old association area budgetary action was actually angered to agriculture and war. Back a baron planned a campaign, he wasn't aloof thinking about acreage or prisoners. He was thinking about cacao taxes, bazaar stability, and ally flows. A king who controlled cacao could pay soldiers, buy adopted goods, and ally political allies. A baron who didn't risked rebellion. To advance bread-and-butter flow, the Maya developed something remarkable: long-distance merchant networks. These weren't accidental traders. They were organized, skilled, and essential. The Maya called them puhunes, powerful merchants who Catholicked through forests, beyond mountains, and aforth rivers, a moving cacao amid regions. These merchants operated with an alloy of commerce, diplomacy, and espionage, carrying not only appurtenances but political information. They understood supply chains, risk, and the need to maintain good relationships with bounded leaders. If you replaced their cacao bundles with shipping containers, their footpaths with bargain routes, their negotiations with bargain agreements, you'd recognize the model of ally global commerce, and the Maya had been accomplishing it for centuries. But the most amazing reason is this: their money was perishable, and yet their economy thrived. Cacao beans can rot, mold, dry out, or be eaten by insects. A storage miscalculation could wipe out wealth instantly, and yet that risk didn't collapse the arrangement. It made it added dynamic, because perishability meant cacao didn't accumulate indefinitely. It circulated, it moved, it affected bread-and-butter action rather than hoarding. In some ways, it behaved more like a modern bill than a commodity. Still, no budgetary system is perfect. The Maya world eventually entered periods of political fragmentation, ecological stress, and shifting trade routes, but cacao endured. A leak after the classic Maya collapse, cacao remained currency in post-classic times and was later adopted by the Aztecs, who institutionalized it, a leak added, especially as tax, tribute, and state-controlled distribution. And here's area we mentioned the present connection. The part where ancient economics reveals something uncomfortable about our modern world. What the Maya understood is that money is trust made visible. It isn't the cacao bean, or the coin, or the paper, or the digital number. It's the collective belief that article has value, that it can be exchanged, that it will still matter tomorrow. Every financial system, from cacao to cryptocurrency, rests on the same foundation. What beings agree is real. But the Maya also show us something else, something modern economies often forget. When your currency depends on a culture you don't totally control, you become vulnerable. When climate, supply, or back politics shift, your economy changes with it. When your money supply can be counterfeited, taxed, manipulated, or intercepted, you face instability. And when your medium of exchange is concentrated in the hands of elites, inequity becomes structurally embedded. The Maya lived with these dynamics. We still do. Their inflation was tied to drought, Ours is tied to energy shocks, supply chains, and budgetary policy. Their counterfeiting came from hollowed beans. Ours comes from fraud, market manipulation, and digital exploits. Their geopolitics centered on cacao-growing regions. Ours centers on oil fields, lithium mines, and semiconductor supply lines. Their economic resilience depended on their ability to adapt to environmental pressure. Ours depends on the same thing, just at a global scale. When you strip away the technology and the time period, the Maya economy becomes a mirror, a reminder that money is never just a tool. It is a system of relationships, vulnerabilities, and choices. And behind every currency, no matter how ancient or modern, lies the same truth. Value is an agreement, not a fact, and that agreement is only as strong as the society that upholds it. The Maya turned cacao into currency because they trusted it, believed in it, and built institutions around it. Their markets thrived because people agreed on value. Their bargain networks extended across hundreds of miles because merchants believed they would be paid. Their city-states rose and fell on the strength of economic confidence. And when that confidence faltered, so did the world they built. That's the lesson hidden inside a simple cacao bean. Money isn't what we think it is. It never was, and the civilizations that last aren't the ones with the flashiest currency, but the ones that understand how fragile value really is. History doesn't repeat, but if you don't understand it, it'll crush you all the same. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.